that the chus shmiya is the most refined and the delicate of all the senses. This is the opinion of Plato. And you see that in general it's an argument between, these two Rishonim, it's an argument between the Chakrim and the Mukabalim. The Chakrim, which are the philosophers, argue for the supremacy of sight, and the Mukabalim, the Kabbalists, argue for the supremacy of hearing. It's interesting that there's a Zohar that says, Hashem Bamum, where it talks about the Paraduma, Hashem Bamum. So the Zohar says that Chachmas Yavon is Ein Bamum, that the wisdom of the Greeks is pure and refined, there's no mum. And it's similar to the Chachmi Yisrael. And Sharamun Makadam brings on B'Shem Arakanti that this refers to pre-Aristotelian philosophy. So there's, whether you see something, that's the most important thing. I see it, therefore I believe it. Empirically it's true because I can see it or touch it. Or something becomes even more true through the sense of hearing. We'll have to understand this a little bit further. What does it mean specifically about the sense of hearing? In general, the idea of shmear, which also is brought down, we brought down from Tshuvas HaRashba, and also from Tzedel HaDerech, Tshuvas HaRashba Kesim Nun Hey, that the idea of shmear means three things. Shmear can mean shmias eisen, you're listening with your ear, you're hearing. Shmear can mean ladas, an understanding. And shmear is lekabel, to receive something, to bring it to your heart, to understand it. This is also what Rashi writes at the pasuk with Leishamal Moshe Mekaytzer Ruach. So Rashi says, Lekibul Tanchumim, they didn't receive what Moshe said. So the idea of shmear is a type of Kabbalah. We're going to go with this mahalach, and this is what the Mizrahi writes, that shmear is Lashon Kabbalah. Shma b'ni musar avicha, Shma b'ni means, listen, the pasuk says, Mishnah Shma b'ni musar avicha means, the Kabbal, like the Mitzvah David said, to receive the musar of avicha, to receive the tradition of your ancestors. Also brought down Meshav the Mittler Rebbe that shmear means havana v'asaga, to be maven it, to understand it, like he writes in Ner Mitzvah Torah. So this is one idea, that the ikar idea of shmear, of hearing, is to receive something, l'kabel. We have also the word shmear that Shaul calls out, so Rashi has Lashon Achrazi, calls out, but the Ardak says Lashon Asifa, that he's gathering together, like bringing people together to receive. So we're going to use this understanding of shmear a little bit more, what it means to be a human, that we say that the Maral, this is what we said, that the idea of the definition of being human is to hear, and hearing specifically is a type of receiving. We had this Maral somewhere where he talks about the ear, and the lashon of the Maral was, it's a Maral Be'er Agerla and Gimel. They say, your eyes and your mouth has an opening and closing. You can open your mouth, you can close your mouth. The ear is always open. It's always open to receive. Your eyes, you can close your eyes and you're sleeping. Your mouth, you can close your mouth and talking, but your ears are always open to receive. And he says, if the Roifim, the doctors and the scientists are going to tell you that there's some natural, selective or scientific explanation, biology explanation of why the ears are open, he says, Alta Savalazah, don't desire this type of interpretation. That the idea of the ear is to receive. The ear, the capacity to hear is to receive, to be in a modality of receiving at all times. This is what the definition of the ear is, and we'll see how it's connected to hearing. So let's start, because it's Rosh Hashanah, we talked a little bit about this idea, and over this course of the week we talked about shofar, so we'll talk about the famous machlokes in the Rishonim. There's a famous machlokes in the Rishonim, which is the nusach habracha. What is the language, what is the way we should phrase the bracha, that when we recite the bracha on Birchas HaShofar, What is the bracha we should say? So the Rosh, in the end of Rosh Hashanah, in Perek Daled Yud, brings down the Shittas HaTosfos, Shittas Rabbeinu Tam. It's also brought down the Reim, also brought in the Smag Mitzvah and Beis, that the bracha is al tkiyas shofar. The bracha means that the blessing you should make is on the mitzvah of blowing the shofar. It's not clear, like you see in the Rosh itself, it's not clear 100% if Rabbeinu Tam is talking about specifically tkiya, not shmiya, or he's just saying that the bracha is al and not li, which is also possible. But the Karban Asanel, and it's also brought down in Sefer Yashar in the Rabbeinu Tam itself, and it's brought down by Rabbeinu Yerucham that actually Tosis is actually, Rabbeinu Tam is holding that you have to make a bracha al tkiyah shofar. The mitzvah is l'tkoya shofar, to make a bracha l'tkoya. L'tkoya kol shofar, I'm sorry, l'tkoya, not al. L'tkoya shofar, to blow the shofar. The Rambam paskins in Hilchos shofar. The Rambam paskins, no, the mitzvah is l'shmear kol shofar. And the bracha that we have to make, the nusach bracha, is l'shmear kol shofar, which is the opinion of Rashi, the Rambam. It's brought down in the Goinim, and that's the way it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch Siman Taf Kuf Pei, that the bracha is l'shmear kol shofar. That's the mitzvah bracha, to make l'shmear kol shofar. There's the tshuva of the Rambam, which is also on page 82. Tshuva of the Rambam in Siman Ben Beis, where the Rambam writes that when we talk about the nusach habracha, what is the liturgy of how we make the blessing, l'shmaya, to hear the sound of the shofar, l'tkoya shofar, or to blow the shofar. So b'pashtas, this argument is connected with the argument, what is the iker mitzvah shofar? Not only the nusach, but what is the iker mitzvah shofar? Is the mitzvah to blow the shofar, or the mitzvah is to hear the shofar? So the Rambam writes that the mitzvah hi hashmiya v'lo yatkiya, in Shuvas HaRambam, it's also in Shuvas HaPei Ador, someone's called Siman Kuf Mem Beis. The Rambam eino lo toikim ela kedei l'shmaya. The mitzvah is to hear. Why do you blow? You blow because you can't hear if you don't blow. Kemoisha mitzvah yeshivas hasukah v'lo yasiyasa. The mitzvah of sukkah is to sit in the sukkah, not to make the sukkah. But you can't sit in the sukkah if you didn't make the sukkah, so you have to make the sukkah. Maybe it's like a hechsher mitzvah. And so the hechsher mitzvah is not the ikr of the mitzvah. The ikr mitzvah is to hear the shofar, but since it's the hechsher mitzvah, it's to blow, so therefore you have to blow the shofar to hear the shofar. This is the machlokes between the Rishonim, basically between the Rabbeinu Tam, let's say between the Rabbeinu Tam and the Rambam, if the ikr mitzvah, or is the mitzvah to blow the shofar, or the mitzvah is to hear the sound of the shofar. For example, by the mitzvah of shofar and yovel, so in the Rambam writes clearly, in Shmita V'yovel Perek Yud Yud, the Rambam writes clearly, mitzvah litkoya b'shofar, the mitzvah is to blow the shofar. You have to blow the shofar on the Shnas HaYovel. And when the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah is l'shmoya kol shofar. So clearly there's a distinction between blowing the shofar, and we'll see why, what's the difference in Yovel and Shmita, Yovel and shofar. On Rosh Hashanah, one is to blow the shofar, is the mitzvah tkiya, and one of the mitzvah is the shmiya. In the Torah, before we get to this a little further, in the Torah it just says Yom Teruah Yilachem. Yom Teruah Yilachem means a day of blowing the shofar, which seems to suggest that the mitzvah is to blow, not to hear. Right? Because it says Yom Teruah, a day that there is a shofar. Teruah we know is a shofar. So Yom Teruah Yilachem, so blow a shofar. Where does Chazal, or where do the Rishonim understand that the mitzvah is l'shmoya kol shofar? If it's actually the mitzvah is Yom Teruah Yilachem. Tiku b'chodesh shofar. You have to blow b'chodesh the shofar. Rachmana amar tkoy. The Rachmana says you should blow. Okay, blowing is not listening. The mitzvah should be to blow. How did some of the Rishonim learn it? That's la halacha that we learn, that the mitzvah is actually to hear it, not to blow it. This idea, if the mitzvah is to blow and to hear, which seems to be a strict, clear machlokes between the Rishonim, because that's the way it's in the liturgy, is not absolute. All the Achronim learn the Shagas Arya and Siman Vav, the Minchas Chinuch and Tafei, and it's really a diuk also the Alter Rebbe writes in Shulchan Aruch. That really, it's not pshat, doesn't mean that the mitzvah is only to blow the shofar or only to hear the shofar. It's impossible. And the two famous rayas that both the Shagas Arya and the Minchas Chinuch bring, the Alter Rebbe doesn't bring it, but the two famous rayas is from the Gemaras that we learned. The first Gemara that we learned is Hatakei b'seich haboyer. The Mishnah says, in Chav Zayin, a person blows in the boyer. So the Mishnah says that the people that are chutz l'boyer are not yotze. The person that's in the boyer seems to be that the person is yotze. Why? Why is the person in the boyer yotze? Person chutz l'boyer, outside the boyer. First of all, why is the person blowing the boyer? Because it's shmad, like the Meir writes. So some type of danger, and call so the people have to hide to blow the shofar in boyers or myers. They have to go inside. So that's the scenario that happened. Yeah, but not if you're in the boyer. If you're in the boyer, it's closed. The boyer is closed. You don't hear it. No one hears it. This is what the Meiri writes. The point is that why is the person outside the boyer? Because kol avar. It's an irvuv. He hears two koilos, so therefore he's not yaitza. The person in the boyer. So like the lashon of the Ritz on Chav Zayin is that mistama he heard the sound of the shofar. Mistama he heard the sound of the shofar. The Alter Rebbe actually writes bevadai shama he certainly heard the sound of the shofar. But if you're mesupik, by the way, your question that you asked yesterday, how do we know if you're hearing a kol avar or kol or not? Actually, the Rosh says that, and therefore he says loy plug. The Rosh on this Gemara says that therefore the people outside the bar will say always hear the kol avar. The people inside the bar always hear the kol shofar and loy plug. You can't say I was inside, did I hear the kol avar or heard the kol shofar? You're in the shul, you heard the shofar. You're outside the shul, you heard the kol avar. That's the Rosh says that because he says you can't allow this subtlety for every single person to decide did I hear this, did I hear that, I didn't know how to think. Okay. But what do we see from that Gemara? We see from that Gemara that a person blows the shofar, let's say, and let's say he doesn't hear the shofar. Let's say the person inside is not bavadeh. Let's say it's besafik. We'll go like the Alter Rebbe. And he doesn't sure. He's not sure if he heard bavor, he didn't hear bavor. If the mitzvah is tkiya shofar like Rabbeinu Tam, so why are you not yaitza? Right? So it can be that the mitzvah is only tkiya. The other side of is another Mishnah. The other Mishnah says in Chavtes, the Mishnah says cher shait v'katan, the blows of shofar. You're not yaitza the mitzvah. When you hear from a cher shait v'katan, you're not yaitza the mitzvah of tkiya shofar. But if the mitzvah is shmiya shofar, what do you care if the person is a bar chiyuva? You heard the shofar. So what's the chiluk with the cher shait v'katan blows the shofar? Okay, so zadir, you could say that you have to hear the shofar from a chiyuv, like a mitzvah shofar. So from these rayas, they say that the mitzvah is actually both. The mitzvah is the tekiya and the trua, and the shmiya and the tekiya. The Alter Rebbe writes, "Eina ikar mitzvah, shatkiya eina ikar mitzvah, ela shmiyas kol shofar u ikar mitzvah." The ikar is taka the Shemiah. So he says, but since the ikar is taka the Shemiah, however, b'komokem im avar etol birch litkoya b'shofar yatsa. Therefore, if you made a mistake and didn't say the Shemiah kol shofar, you made litkoya shofar, you yatsa. It's taka not the ikar mitzvah, not like the Rambam. Right? The Rambam says that it's only a chana. It's a hechsher. It's like building a sukkah. There's no mitzvah to build a sukkah. The mitzvah is you should sit in the sukkah. Yeshivas sukkah. Sukkah's teisha, shivas yami. You have to sit in the sukkah. But there seems to be that there's an opinion to say that we'll go with the system, the svara, like most achronim, that there's actually both. The tkiya and the trua. And the shmiya.
Do they say always that it's before and after? Or
what do you mean?
Like is the bracha on the shema always after? Or does some of them say you say the bracha on the shema before?
You say before, of course. Oh, everyone says avil yasam. Everyone says that. Yeah, you have to make a bracha avil yasam. You're making a bracha that you're going to hear l'shmaya kol shofar. Okay, but what happens if you made l'tkoya? According to the Svarah, according to the Rambam, it says l'shmaya is only the mitzvah, and the other thing is only a hechsher mitzvah. You make a bracha, you're not yotze. You made a bracha in the wrong mitzvah. So there's a tekiya, and the tekiya has to have a shmiya. Even according to the opinion, it has to be a tekiya. It's like what we learned in the Gemara from Gemara Brachas and Tazvav, where it talks about Chacham say that the mitzvah's kriyas krishma is clearly the mitzvah's kriyashma. Right? The mitzvah krishma, the whole yom, you have to say krishma. You don't have to hear yourself saying krishma. But Rabbi Yossi says, if you don't hear it, because if you sound a sound that cannot be heard, it's as if you didn't sound the sound. This is the svara of saying that even though the mitzvah will be tkiya, still you have to hear it. Okay. But the shaila is a real shaila. Another shaila. really the Shaila is the Rambam asks the Shaila. And the Rambam asks the Shaila, and therefore this is the proof that the Rambam says that the mitzvah Shemiah is called shofar. To hear the shofar, not to blow the shofar. The Rambam asks a very simple Shaila. If the mitzvah was taka tkiya shofar, the mitzvah is to blow the shofar. Then you would have to blow the shofar. If the mitzvah Shemiah is called shofar, to hear the sound of the shofar, okay, so I heard the sound of the shofar. But if the mitzvahs that have to do, there's a chiyuv on the gavra, right? It's a mitzvah shebegufay. There's a mitzvah shebegufay, I have to blow the shofar. So how could you blow the shofar for me? So the Rambam says if the mitzvah is actually tekiya shofar, then you can't nominate a shliach. You can't tell someone, if there's a mitzvah shebegufay, I have to put on tefillin. Okay, I'm not in the mood of putting on tefillin. I'm going to make you a shliach to put on tefillin for me. Could be yotzeh, could someone be yotzeh to put on tefillin for you? No, because it's a mitzvah begufay. There's a mitzvah every single yid should blow the shofar. So how is the person that's hearing the sound of the shofar yotzeh? So therefore the Rambam says, therefore Zarai is a proof that the mitzvah is actually Shemiah, not Tkiya. But that question is on Rabbeinu Tam. The question is, according to the opinion that says that the mitzvah is actually the Tkoya shofar, how are we yotzeh l'shittas Rabbeinu Tam? How is a person yotzeh mitzvah tkiya shofar by listening to the shofar when the mitzvah is actually they should blow the shofar? What's the svara? So there's a svara. And the Mordechai brings the svara. The Mordechai says, in the end of Rosh Hashanah, in Tafshin Chav Aleph, the Mordechai says, the svara is Shemei Kaina. What's the idea of Shemei Kaina? Shemei Kaina means like this. There's two ways. Shemei Kaina means the listener is like the responder. This is a very important understanding. You could say Shemei Kaina can mean two things. One level of Shemei Kaina means when someone is listening to someone else say, let's say, a bracha. And this is the laws of brachas. You can make a birchas hamazon for another person, Shemei Kaina. The mitzvah is that you have to make a birchas hamazon, but if someone else is mechuyev and makes a birchas hamazon for you, you answer Amen, Shemei Kaina you yotzeh. What's the svara? You could say two things. One is, I heard birchas hamazon. Okay, so you heard birchas hamazon, so therefore you're yotzeh by listening. Or you can say Shemei Ka'ina means, in the language of the Alter Rebbe in Hilchos Brachas, it's in birchas hamazon, it's piv kipiv. The shliach tzibur and Hilchos Amen, that the mouth of the person speaking, the shliach tzibur, becomes like your mouth. When you respond and say Amen to something, it's not only that you received what is being said, but you're actually participating in what's being said. You're doing a maisa. You're doing an action. Listening is an action. The act of listening is not only do I listen, it's passive, and I'm hearing what you're saying, but Shemiah is actually ka'ina. Shemiah is actually as if I myself responded. So this is a question we have to understand. What is it that we say that this klal, this is a very big principle, because a normal din of shlichus, in the normal din of shlichus, I sent you my shliach. And even if you say like the Yosef Engel, the highest level of shlichus, that kigufay mamish, I still can't make another person my shliach to put on tefillin for me, if it's a mitzvah shebegufay. But by brachas, by dvarim shebedibur, words, I can actually make ki'ilu a shliach, because I am Shemiah and I'm ka'oina, and therefore his mouth is as if I said it. What happens in the exchange of speech and hearing different than action? This is what we want to understand. Right? There's going to be a big difference, yeah?
How does this connect it to Nasa the Nishma?
Why?
Here the Nishma becomes Nasa.
Okay, we're going to read this, so it's true. I mean, it says in Sfarim like this, that on the highest level, Nasa Nishma is one thing, then it divided into two. Okay. So we said the Mordechai says that it's Shmei Kaina. The Avnei Nezer, which we quoted yesterday in Siman Taf Lamed Aleph, Ois Beis, there was an Avnei Nezer that was quoted. That Avnei Nezer holds that you don't say the idea of Shmei Ka'oina with koil. You only say Shmei Ka'oina in dibur. This is the svara. It says there's two things. There's dibur, speech. We're going to understand what the oimik is. And then there's like the type of speech. You can't make a shliach, you can't say the svar of Shemei Kohen to understand the oimik. He goes according to Pshat, which we said that's the reason why he holds that you have to be mamana shliach and the tekeah. That's the maisa, right? When you're mamana the shliach, say you be my shliach to be blow the shofar. That's the maisa that you do. He says it can't be mitzvah Shemei Kohen. This idea is that there's a difference between dibur and koil. There's a difference between speech and sound. But emes, there's a similar idea from the Rakatchavar and from the Beis HaLevi. There's a famous Rakatchavar that says that by Kriyas HaMegillah, when you're listening to the Megillah, the mitzvah of Megillah is l'shmoya. The mitzvah of the Megillah is to hear the Megillah. Okay, you don't need Shemei Ka'oina, you just Shemiah. And you say Amen. You're Shemiah, that's the mitzvah, to hear the Megillah. In Megillah, there's a minig that when it comes to Aseres B'nai Haman, everyone stops and reads Aseres B'nai Haman alone. Why? So the Rakatchavar says like this, because the svara that the person is mimoitza for Shemai Ka'ina only works, the person says, he's reading the Megillah, okay, it's as if I'm saying it. But in the Oifen HaMira, in the way he says it, the 10 children of Haman have to be said, they have to be said in one breath, altogether. That's an Oifen HaMira, that's a type of speech. I can be yoitza the speech itself, but not the type of speech. So the same svara, really, the Beis HaLevi gives. He says with Birchas Kohanim, there's a mitzvah of the Kohen to Mevarach Klal Yisrael. There's a mitzvah Zesem in HaTorah for the Kohen to Mevarach. There's also, according to the Cheder, the mitzvah Zesem in HaTorah, the person Shimei Mizbarach. Mitzvah Zesem in HaTorah, what if the Kohen is not feeling in the mood, and says, I want to make a shliach, levarach. He says, no, you can't make a shliach levarach. Why? Because the mitzvah of levarach, Sami Yisrael be'ava, so it's a type of speech. Not just you have to make the bless, you have to bless Klal Yisrael, but you have to do it with a certain emotion. I can't make a shliach for me to have that emotion. It's an oifen of an amira that I can't make a shliach. This is the svara of the Rakatchavar and the svara of the Beis HaLevi. Totally, completely not relevant to what we want to talk about. But anyways, where does it actually say that you have to mevarach as Am Yisrael ba'ava? Where does it come from? Where does it say anywhere in the Torah that the Kohen has to bench Kol Yisrael ba'ava? So there's a whole Torah how we get to Ava, but there's a pelledige word from the Ramdu. The Ramesh David Vali writes that the pasuk doesn't say Emor Lahem, it says Amor Lahem. So he writes, and if you know, okay, so you know. So if you know Italian or Latin or this, you know that Amor is love. He says, that's what it says. Amor Lahem, the Lashon Shel love. This is the Ramdu writes. This is the makkah that you have to say Ba'ava.
So Bas Achas is like a type of...
Yeah, it's a type of a beer. This is what Rakatchavar is saying. I can be Moitza Shemei Ka'ina means your mouth is like my mouth, and you're saying what I'm saying. But the type of saying I can't make you a shliach. It's a type of saying. Let's hold to this far because we want to understand the problem. Why the Avnei Nezer says that there's a difference between dibur. Why do we say the principle of Shemei Ka'ina with dibur, with speech, and we don't say the principle of Shemei Ka'ina by kol shofar? According to the Avnei Nezer, we said lahalacha, we don't paskin like the Avnei Nezer, we paskin like the Mordechai. That is Shemei Ka'ina. That's where you're yotza if the mitzvah is actually tkiyah. But let's go with the svara. What's the svara to differentiate between speech and sound? That speech somehow is Shemei Ka'ina, but sound is not Shemei Ka'ina. What's the svara? So let's start like this. There's a Ramban, the Ramban in Drasha L'Rosh Hashanah, which is brought down lahalacha Shulchan Aruch Siman Tov Kufay Vav. The Ramban has a chiddush. It doesn't say Gemara. Doesn't say Bavli, Yishalmi, Tosef, doesn't say anywhere. The Rambam, and this is where it's paskin, the Beis Yosef, the Torah, everyone paskins like this, la'alacha. Hirchak ha'shofar mepiv lo yatsa. A person takes the shofar and doesn't put the shofar into his mouth. Takes the shofar and puts a space between his mouth and the shofar, and in that space blows the shofar, and the wind blows into the shofar, and the sound of the shofar is blown. Are you yoitza this mitzvah? Are you yoitza the mitzvah? So the Ramban paskins, no. And this is what the Shulchan Aruch paskins. You're not yoitz in the mitzvah. The Mishnah Berurah brings out a pasuk, Cheichav shofar and Hoisha, that the shofar has to be attached to your mouth. But if there's a hefsek between your mouth and the shofar, you're not yoitza. Where does the Ramban get it from? The Ramban gets it from a taka from a Gemara. The Gemara brings down a Tosefta. The Gemara brings down a brisa which says tzipoy zav. The Gemara talks about if you take the shofar and you put gold on the shofar. What happens if you put gold and you don't change the sound? So the Gemara talks about if you're changing the sound, it's the same sound in the shofar. What happens if you put it by the piv? You took a piece of gold, and to make the shofar very beautiful, you put a piece of gold right at the place of the mouthpiece, and you blew the shofar. So the Gemara says, no, it's lo yotza. You're not yotza. So the Ramban says, just like over there, you're not yotza because there's a hefsek between your mouth and the shofar. So he learns from that. So he deduces from there. So the same thing also, if there's a separation between your mouth and the thing, even if there's no gold, also lo yotza. But the shaila is a shaila that's yedua. The very famous question that's asked on this Ramban is that there's a difference between the laws of chatzitza and the laws of hefsek. Two separate dinim. The laws of chatzitza means you have something, obstruction that's placed between your mouth and the shofar. Chatzitza is zav. If you put zav on the end of the shofar, there's a chatzitza between your mouth and the shofar. Hefsek is not a longer a din of chatzitza. Hefsek, when you don't have anything, there's nothing obstructing your mouth and the shofar. It's just wind that's coming from the shofar. So why is that? How does the Ramban learn the laws of hefsek from the laws of chatzitza? So again, the Avnei Nezer actually writes in the Chum Chalkas Yoav in the beginning. He has a teretz, and it's a genius teretz. It's not a chatzitza, no. Why is there a chatzitza? No, chatzitza means it's an object. Chatzitza is an object. It's hair or floor or shoes. That's a chatzitza. And then Allah, if you're, yeah, hair is not a chatzitza. But if you have your tefillin and it's not, there's some air between, hair is not a hefsek. It's not it could be a hefsek. It's not a chatzitza.
Even a ponytail with a bunch of hair?
No, that's a chatzitza. That's something. That's an object. So the Avnei Nezer says like this, a very simple svar. The Gemara says. The Gemara in Sukkah Lamed Zayin says, "Kol la'noisa eina chaytzitz." The Gemara talks about a lulav. People make these fancy lulavs, and they have it's not Chabad minig, but the other customs to have this fancy lulav custom piece, but you're not touching the lulav. What? To hold the minim, yeah, but through that you're holding the lulav, yeah. It's like it's not min b'minah. First of all, it's not allowed to be minah. The mimim mini and is another. That's if the thing is a living thing. This thing is a dead thing. You cut it off. So the din over there is because kol anayis ein is if you do something for beauty, see the mitzvah is you have to hold a lulav in your hand. Yeah. So if you grab it with a tissue, you're not yoitza. But if you grab it with that case, technically it's okay. Of course, halacha it's okay. Many didn't do this. That's correct. And the principle is kol anayis ein something that's done for hana. Or for beauty, you're doing it to beautify the mitzvah, is not considered a chatzitza. Says the Avnei Nezer, okay, so when you have tzipoy zav, it's not the mitzvah din chatzitza. You can't say mitzvah din chatzitza because la'noisei. Why do you put the zav on the shofar? You put the zav on the shofar to make it beautiful. You made it beautiful. You put zav, so you can't say it's din chatzitza.
But the mitzvah is the shmear.
Wait a second. It's not the shmear. So that's not the problem. I'm talking about the idea that the Brisa says that if you put zav separating between your mouth and the shofar with gold.
The shofar is not the mitzvah. That's what I'm saying.
What do you mean the shofar is not the mitzvah?
The shofar itself is nothing. It's not the mitzvah.
Okay, we just said before. We just said before. You're not yoitza. You're not yoitza with chayashet v'katan. You have to be. It has to be a tkiyah shel mitzvah. We said that. If you geisel the shofar, there's dinim of that idea. So the point is, what he's saying is, it can be mitzad chatzitza. What is the din mitzad? Hefsek. That's all you have the solution. It can't be because chatzitza, because it's not a chatzitza. So why is he put gold by the shofar? Because it's a hefsek between your mouth and the thing. Okay, this is the chiddush of the Ramban, that if there's something missing, if your mouth is not touching the shofar, it's not a good blowing of the shofar. We want to understand a little bit the oimik. What is the connection of the peh shofar? Why dafka? Is it a din, dafka, that the peh has to blow the shofar? Why? And why is it taka like that? The sound of the shofar. What happens if a wind? Okay, that's ma'isa ba'almahu. Let's say you shake your hand very strong. You create a wind and it blows, and it sounds a shtiya. Or you take it in your nose and you blow it. I don't know. Because someone's talented and could do this. Is it taka? Is it a problem? Is it a din that the shofar has to have the peh? Something about the peh. So al pi Kabbalah. Clearly, yeah, that Oizen is Gematria Shem Sag, 63, and Peh is Gematria 85, and Peh is Shem Sag with the 22 letters, so there has to be a kesher between the Oizen and the Peh. But I want to understand this first, I'll be more Havana. What is actually the connection between the Peh, the mouth, and the shofar that we say that actually has to be yoitz? In other words, what we're saying is that it's not only, it's a coincidence. What is the aver that produces the most wind is the mouth. So therefore, the mouth has to blow the shofar. No, there's a geder that the mouth, you need the sound of the shofar to be blown from a mouth. In other words, it's a din in the peh. It's not a din in the sound. There's a concept that we need the mouth. The mouth has to create the sound that has to be heard. We're seeing something that it's connected to the mouth. That's not just a coincidence. We find a similar idea, but it's a little bit derech hagav. We find a similar idea like with the iter, like with a person that's a lefty. So the Gemara says in B'choros, Mhei and Zochim and the end, and Menachos in the beginning, Vav. Iter is pasul avodah. The person that's a lefty is pasul avodah. He's pasul avodah. Can't serve a kohen. Kohen that's a iter. Kohen that's a lefty can't serve in Beis Hamikdash. So Rashi writes, B'choros iter yad pasul kivin shenemer v'tavel be'etzboi. Chazal tells us in Zvachim Chavdalad, Kol b'ka shenemer etzboi v'kuna ein elu sheyamin. It has to be dafke yamin. It has to be dafke his right hand. Right? So a person that's a lefty cannot do it. V'avodas HaKetoros, actually you do find that he holds the gecholim in his left hand, but we spoke about in Ketoros by Ketoros because that's dafke the avodah of Yudal Samana Ketoros, and it's to relieve the negative smells, etc., etc. Pizoyer, Mer Nevuchim. But generally it has to be in the right hand. The Rambam holds differently. The Rambam doesn't hold that it's a psul because the Rambam holds that it's a balmum, that the person is actually considered it's a defect. Api halacha. But the Rashi and the Ramban, the Lashon of Ramban is iter ein lo yamin. The iter doesn't have a right side, doesn't have yamin. God al pi Kabbalah, it's the opposite. The iter actually has dafke yamin, because the iter is, we're created in divine image and opposites. Our right is divine left. Our left is divine yamin, right? When you say Oisa Shalom Imroimov, you say to the right to the left. Yamin Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's actually the reverse. So actually, the iter is actually the real image. Okay.
It's the right side of the brain.
It's the right side of the brain, correct. So the shaila is a very simple shaila. The shaila is, how could iter put on tefillin? Again, Dav Nez asked the shaila in Yeridei Simin Lamed Beis, the Chassan Ish asked the shaila in B'choros Simin Chavav. How could a iter put on tefillin? Tefillin, you have to put a yadkeh. Yadkeh is your smile. A iter doesn't have a smile. If he doesn't have a yamin, like the Ramban writes, and Yavam said he doesn't have a yamin, so then he doesn't have a smile. If he doesn't have a smile, why should he put on tefillin? Maybe he should be possible to put on tefillin. So what's the answer? The answer is very simple. It's very simple. By avodas hakahuna, you need the right hand. By tefillin, you just need not the right hand. You need the hand that's weaker. So if your left hand is the weak hand, or your right hand is weak, it doesn't matter. You just need the weaker hand. But by the kahuna, you actually dafka need the right hand. Okay, that's derech hagav. What we're trying to say is that by the peh, there's a din in the peh, that we need actually the mouth to hold the shofar, to blow the shofar. So let's start off one other nekuda. What's the difference between Riya and Shemiah? Three basic chilukim. This will understand what this means. It's three basic chilukim in Riya and Shemiah. Simply, Riya is gashmi, physical. You see physicality. What you see is empirically what you see. That's the truth. That's what we said. That's why the shitta of the Rishonim, like that Evan has and Albag, is that's the highest sense because you see it. That's what it is. So it's gashmi, physical. Shemiah is davar ruchnim, connected to ruchnius. And I don't mean ruchnius dafka hechakait, but ruchnius, emotions, feelings, ideas. That's Shemiah. Another idea about Riya and Shemiah is that Riya, you see first the entire thing, the klal, and then you see the pratim. When you look at something, the first moment you turn around, you see something. Maybe it doesn't register, which means you don't have the shmiyah to understand what it is. But the first thing, the first glance that you see it, you see first the klal, and then when you focus on the klal, in the general, you can see the specific things in that, what you're looking at. So Riya is min klal prat. Shmiyah is a binyan of pratim that creates klal. You're listening to one sentence, one letter, one word, one sentence. Then you get a whole structure, and you understand the whole sentence, and now you're getting a klal of what the person is trying to tell you. So Shemiah is pratim el klal, and Riya is klal el prat. That's the second chiluk. Another chiluk, which is all connected to this idea, they're both connected to this idea, because the oimik of this idea is that Riya, like we talked by the Kolel and the Naim, Riya is to see objectively, potentially, if you don't have the whole problem with the Shemiah. But the idea of Riya is to see the thing the way it is. Like we talked about the Rebbe Kiva, Shakacha Ba'ilame, the Gemara says, that you have to, that he made the bracha. The Riya is to see the thing as it is. You can mean, like we also mentioned with Yosef HaTzadik, that is Lenenev, Nazun, he saw without taking any pleasure, which means you're seeing the thing outside yourself, objectively, potentially objectively. What's the definition of Shemiah? The definition of Shemiah is subjective. The definition of Shemiah is that you're listening to what is being presented to you, but you're interpreting it continuously. You're taking pratim and you're building from these pratim a klal. That's what you're doing when you're Shemiah something. Someone's speaking and you're listening. You're hearing one thing, another thing, and you're the person that's actually being boina this binyan. This is what it's not a passive act. If you're really listening to something that you can actually eventually say it over or give it over or understand it, you're really listening to the thing, you're actually participating in this process.
Yeah, but the speaker gives it.
The speaker is also, wait a second, we'll talk about the speaker in a second. Let's first talk about the listener. First the listener.
The speaker would have given him one shot, maybe.
You can give him one shot.
But if, not Hashem, but Zochar B'Shem.
Yeah, that's the definition of Shemiah. The definition of dibur is pratim el klal.
But it's not something to Shemiah.
Sure, it's a relationship between the Medaber and the Shemiah. The relationship between the Medaber and the Shemiah is pratim el klal. That's the idea. And therefore, we can understand, what does it mean Shemiah ka'ina? Why do we say the principle of Shemiah ka'ina? Because Shemiah ka'ina, that this is the oimik why you can't say this to any other type of shliach. When you're making a shliach to do a mitzvah for you, the other person is outside of you. You tell someone to put on tefillin, even if shluchah shaladam kamoi say mamish, and it's mamish like you, it's still not you. It's still the other person doing the mitzvah. But when you're listening to something, when you hear something, you are actually a participator, a co-creator in this process. If someone's speaking and no one's listening, then it's a half a word. In order for someone to, when a person hears, they're actually completing what is being received. That's the definition of the Shemiah, is the makabel that actually becomes a mashpia. And that's why no two people hear the same thing, because everyone is hearing through the prism of their own understanding, and they're being boina this idea. So because the definition of Shemiah is not passive. It could be, but the idea, the oimik of Shemiah is it's co-creative. The speaker and the listener are co-creating and dialoguing in this idea that's being created simultaneously through the giver and the receiver. And this is what we talked about yesterday, about the whole idea of Trei Karnaloi Mishtama, but if it's Trei Gava, there is Mishtama, and like the Ritva says, you don't hear the other sound, or like the Rama says, you're able to hear two sounds, because even if the two sounds came out simultaneously together, and they were mixed at one time, there were two mixed sounds, the listener can deconstruct these two sounds and make them, this one sound and make it into two. Even though the way it came out of the giver, they're actually simultaneously put into, like, let's say, sound waves as one mixture, the receiver untangles them and creates two sounds out of these things. Because if there's the chavivus, you can actually do that, which means the receiver actually is participating. And this is the answer to the question of how, if the mitzvah is litkoya shofar, to blow the shofar, how could a person be yoytze in the mitzvah with another person is doing, like the Rambam asked? Because the answer is, because by blowing the shofar and you're listening to the shofar, it's not only that you're just listening, you're actually blowing the shofar. Because you're interpreting that blow of the shofar. There's a process of not just passive receiving, but participating in this unfolding of what you're saying. And this is maybe why the Avnei Nezer has an issue with the difference between the coil and the dibur, which we'll understand in a second why we're not going to go according to the Avnei. But what's the Avnei saying? The Avnei is saying there's a difference between a coil and a dibur. A coil, a sound, is a davar pashut. This is what the Avnei will say. The coil is a very simple thing. It's or tu, turutu. It's a very simple sound. There's very little room for your interpretation of what that sound means. When someone says something to you, but dibur, okay, every person understands it a different way. But a sound or a u sound, everyone is hearing it the same way. So the coil, in a way, sound, the Shemiah is a little weaker by sound, because it would seem that coil, the difference between coil and dibur, the way the Arizal talks about it, is the difference between Zal Malchus, or the Grub brings the Shir Hashem, it's Mishamayim Shemati Kolecha. Coil is connected with Elyon, with the higher. Dibur is connected already with speech, which is lower. Because every time we talk, we have the coil, which is like the voice of speech. And then we have the Heimat, Matzayas Apeth. Through the 5 potentials of the mouth, we actually take the coil and we differentiate it, and we create a certain hagdara of that coil, a certain definition of that coil. Now the receiver receives that coil, they also make their own hagdara. They're receiving and they receive their own hagdara. So this is the svaras the Avnei is. L'poil, lahalacha. We actually said no. That even sound has an interpretation. We'll see soon how. But even sound has an interpretation, and every person is shemei ka'ina, even in the sound. That's why yotzei kol shofar. Even though the mitzvah is tkiya shofar, according to those Rebbeinu Tam, you're still being a yotzei the mitzvah tkiya shofar because you are participating in the listening of that sound. There's a conceptual shaila. The shaila is, like we said before, the Torah says, Tika b'choy the shofar, you should blow the shofar, Yom Tur Yilachem, and Chazal are using it as L'shmear kol shofar. The mitzvah is to hear. So there's a ritva in Rosh and Lamadal that asks the shaila. How do we know, how does the famous Rambam on Hilchos Shofar, the Rambam writes that Remez Yesh L'Davar, that the mitzvah of Shofar is not only to blow the Shofar, the Stam, Rachmana Matkoy, the Torah says you should blow, but Remez Yesh L'Davar, there's like a Remez, is a hint, because it's the Me'or person in Tshuva. So the Lashon HaRitva is this, Kivan Ikke Mitzvah Shofar, he says, the Ritva wants to answer, how do we know that Shemiah is the Iker? How do we know that to listen? So it's like a backwards logic. He says, "Kivan the iker mitzvahs hashayfer la'or l'tshuva v'soros b'shmiya talia." So therefore, akain the shmiya hi a mitzvah. Therefore, the shmiya is the mitzvah. Since the mitzvah is to hear tshuva, is to be ma'or tshuva, therefore the mitzvah, he says, is shmiya. So what the Ritva is saying like this: Chazal look at the sound of the shofar like this. They say it's true. Tika b'choy the shofar. Tika b'choy the shofar, why? Ki choyk l'Yisrael hu. Tika b'choy the shofar means you should blow the shofar. The mitzvah is tkiya shofar, just like you have to shake a lulav, you have to blow the shofar. Why? Ki choyk l'Yisrael hu. It's a choyk. What does it mean that it's a choyk? It's not what I listen, what I hear, what it arouses within me. You're not involved in this process. Tika b'choy the shofar. Rachmana matkoy. There's no tshuva involved. Why is it tshuva? The Torah says you should do a bris, you do a bris. The Torah says you should blow the shofar, you blow the shofar. It's like the tkiya shofar of the Yovel. The mitzvah is the tkiya. But Chazal say, no, it's not mamish like that. Why not? Because when something is being blown, something is being heard. When something is being heard, something is being reinterpreted. When something is being reinterpreted, we have to ask what that interpretation is. So Taka the Torah says Yom Tur Lechem, and Tika b'choy the shofar. And it's Taka a choyk. A choyk means this is what we do because Hashem wants us to do it. But when you're doing it, something's actually happening. It's not like, shaking the wall or banging your head on the ceiling. This actually, or cutting wood like the Alter Rebbe's mashal is. This actually something happens when you blow a shofar. To taka the mitzvah, taka the blow. So the essential mitzvah shofar is a choyk. Choyk means it's the tkiya. Nothing to do with you. However, since there's Shemiah involved, which means I'm already listening to it, if there's Shemiah involved, then, okay, so what am I hearing? So I'm hearing some type of awakening, so it's tshuva. So then there's also the mitzvah of Shemiah. So what he's saying is, in another way of saying it is, lahalacha, why does the Rambam speak about the mystery and the meaning of shofar in the Yad HaChazaka. The Rambam is halacha. The Rambam is halacha. The Rambam is telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. That's all. It's a book of halacha. In middle, the Rambam is talking about philosophy, ideas. Why is the Rambam talking about la'ir tshuva when in halacha? What's the halacha of la'ir tshuva? You understand the shayla? It's a simple shayla. Why is the Rambam saying? Because the Rambam is saying, I hold that the mitzvah is Shemiah Kol Shofar. The Rambam says, I hold the mitzvah is actually Shemiah Kol Shofar. Why is mitzvah Shemiah Kol Shofar? Because when you blow, you actually hear. If the Shemiah Kol Shofar, so why do we hear? What's happening when we hear? Oh, we're happening when we hear. We're actually ma'ir l'tshuva. It's actually the halacha. The halacha of l'shmaya Kol Shofar is l'shmaya l'tshuva. And you are participating in this process of tshuva. So now we can understand a little bit why the Rambam learned that you have to put your peh l'shofar. What is a person's peh? What's a person's peh? Peh, the mouth, is the place where a person is misroikim, where the person's inner life, inner subjective life, is able to be projected outwardly. That's the place where your pnimius can be revealed into the world. We have no capacity, only through speech, which is the capacity of the mouth, to empty our inner life into the outside world. And there is no capacity in the world that can receive that in their own subjective way besides the ear. The ear is the receiver of a person's speech. One person empties their own inner life into the outside. The other person receives the other person's inner life into their own inner life and interprets their inner life differently. That's the ultimate dialogue between the giver and the receiver, and both are participating of emptying themselves into the world. One is emptying himself into the other person is receiving that other person's emptying. This is the place of the giver and the receiver. That's why, going back to the Maharal, that's why the Maharal says that the definition of an Adam, a person, a human being, is someone that can hear. Someone that can hear the possibility of language. This is the beginning of the Torah. It says that nefesh chaya, living being, the Targum writes, nefesh amala, creature of speech. The definition of being human is called a medaber. Why is a person called a medaber? Because a medaber is a person that can be misroiking. A person can empty his subjective into a person that's a receiver. If you want to give a person their humanity, you have to listen to them. If you listen to somebody, that's the only way you can actually give them their humanity. If you do them a favor, and it's all good, nice things, but to receive another human being, to receive their inner life in your inner life, is what the definition of it means to being receiving another human being. This is the ultimate dialogue, the ultimate connection, which the Arizal calls in Rosh Hashanah. What's the avodah of Rosh Hashanah? Is panim al panim. What's the whole idea of Rosh Hashanah? The whole idea of Rosh Hashanah is that there's a chibur between, there's a connection between Hashem's inner life that's being revealed for the purpose of revealing creation, and the person's receiving that to connect with the essence of Hashem, the panim al panim, the face-to-face relationship. This is why Mitzvah Hayom B'Shofar. The Mitzvah Hayom B'Shofar, when we say the Mitzvah Hayom B'Shofar, Yom Turiya Lechem, there's a fascinating Levush. The Levush writes in Tavkuf Pevav that if a person blows the shofar 10 times throughout Rosh Hashanah, they're fulfilling a mitzvah, not a chiyuv, a mitzvah of Tkiyah Shofar. Because the Torah calls the day of shofar Yom Truah. It doesn't say mitzvah in the day at a specific time to blow the shofar. It says Yom Truah. The day is a day of Truah. What does it mean to be the day of Truah? The day of Truah means that Rosh Hashanah is the embodiment of what the shofar does. The shofar does is the Tekeiah shofar and the Shemiah shofar. This is a parallel to the whole project of Rosh Hashanah. What's Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is a time when it's Zayam Tchilus Masecha, it's the day of the creation of the human being. What is the creation of the day? Chafei Elul is the creation of all the species became before the human. What happened with the creation of the human being? The difference between the creation of the human being and the creation of all the animals that came before that is that all the other creations had a panim or acher b'acher relationship, a back-to-back relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which means Hashem is the creator, and they're creation, and they're receiving creation, and that's the end of the story. So acher b'acher means they're always attached, they're constantly, but they're not having an encounter. What's the creation of the human being? That Adam goes to sleep, and there's the Nasir, the separation between Adam and Chava. And Adam and Chava are no longer Zachar and Nekeva, Bara Oisam, that they're back to back, but they're sewn apart, they're split apart so they can have a face-to-face relationship, and that's going to be Panim upon him. And the Panim upon him relationship is dialogue, where you can speak and I can listen, where a person has Bchira, unlike the other creations, but a person has Bchira and says, I have an inner life, just like God, you have an inner life, and I would like to share your inner life with my inner life. And let's meet. And the mashal of the Baal Shem is Schwindeltrap. Schwindeltrap is spiral staircase. It's a fancy word, but it's actually a Rashi also in Nachzor. That Schwindeltrap is spiral staircase. That Rosh Hashanah is when you get to the higher level and you're finally face to face, and you're finally face to face, and you're spiraling in time. The Alter Rebbe writes in the Sefer Mamorim Tovkuf Samachay that the Oimek Toyas Ari, the depth of the Toyas Ari, and the whole Rosh Hashanah is in this mashal of this Schwindeltrap. And if you understand the spiral staircase, you understand the secret of the whole Rosh Hashanah. Because what is Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is Hashem says, I want to have a relationship with you. I want you as a human being with your own free choice, with your own inner life, with your own doubts and your own uncertainties, and the person that you are, I want to dialogue with you. I want a Panim upon relationship. Panim upon relationship is very tenuous because Panim upon they're facing each other, but each one can move away. Back to back, you can't move away. You're stuck. Panim upanim, which is a real encounter, which we have a real encounter with another human being, we have a real encounter with God, means we're having an encounter where I am emptying myself out into Hashem, and we're receiving Hashem's presence fully in my life, in the place that I am. There's kavi achol, two subjective beings that are interconnecting with each other. And that is the oimek of why Tchiyah Shofar, Shemiah Shofar, and the Shemiah actually becomes a Tekeah, and then the Tekeah, which is Tkabah Shofar Gadol, actually becomes the Shemiah, Tfilos Amcha Yisrael B'Rachamim. And now we'll take some shilas. Correct? That's correct.
Why don't we have Shemiah without Panim upon?
The definition of Shemiah means, Shemiah means that I have a personal life, separate from you.
Distance, it could be from Achor.
No. Achar doesn't. No, that's a Panim upon him. If you listen to somebody deeply, that's Panim upon him. Panim upon him is made face to face and physically.
Oh, so the Nasir is just a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. If I receive someone's words, so if I'm a Kabbal something that someone said 1,000 years ago, but I'm a Kabbal in my Pnimis, and I try to understand what was the inner life of this person, how that inner life interacts with my inner life, then that's actually a Panim upon relationship. It's not a physical thing. That's what Rosh Hashanah is. There's a being that's separate, that is a Shemiah. In other words, let's understand conceptually. Tikka b'chodesh shofar, malachim can have tikka b'chodesh shofar. If the mitzvah is Tkiya, Yom Trua Yilachem, so malachim, the Acher b'Acher, and the Eibush says you should blow the shofar. An animal can blow the shofar. A Maisa Koif Ba'alma can blow the shofar. But if I'm saying that no, that I have to participate as my most human part of self. What is my most human part of self? My mouth, the place of my speech. In the place of my speech, I'm going to be Tekeah, and then in the place of my humanness to receive that, I'm going to be a Shemiah. And I can even be Yoitza, according to the Shitta, that says that the mitzvah is Tchiyah, because by my listening, I'm actually Ka'oina Mamish. It's Piv Kipiv. I'm reinterpreting what I'm hearing in my own analogy. This is what happens when you hear a sound of shofar. So this is what we're saying. It's not like the Avnei Nezer. It's like the Mordechai. Because really, every time you're listening to something, even if it's a sound, how are you interpreting that sound? Yeah, tshuva is a very nice word, but what's tshuva to you? Every person has their own way of understanding what tshuva is. What do I need to do tshuva for? What is tshuva for me? That's already my interpretation. So I'm participating in this idea. I'm actually a toikeah in the Shemiah.
How do we answer the question, just going back, the Torah says Yom Teruah, how do we know that this is the here?
That's what we had from the Ritva. He's saying that if the Torah says you should blow, you must say when you're blowing to someone that's listening. And if someone's listening, that means someone's interpreting. What's the interpretation? Tshuva. Yeah.
You say that potentially the Rem is Yesh B'Dover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saying that all year a person is not able to be at that level of being able to hear. So the Rem is maybe that now by being ma'oyer from the shofar, now you could hear.
Amos, you really hear the real sounds. This is a very good work. Now you're human. Today's your birthday, and today be the most human. Yeah, the shofar will be that sound, will awaken you to the depth of what it means to be a human being. What it means to be Yid, but what it means to even be a human, to be a Shemiah.
If we're saying that the happens to the human is to listen, how come people call it
No, it's a medaber and a Shemiah. I didn't say the tachlis to the listener. To listen to the Eibusher's words we have in the Salsabas. To listen to the world of the universe, but you have to be expressive. That's the panim upon him.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's interesting that through the bracha, that we become a medaber. It's a bracha on the Shemiah.
Right. We actually speak it.
Say it. So
Correct.
We're making a sound
About listening. Yeah. And also, this is also why Rosh Hashanah, what do we do the whole day Rosh Hashanah? We speak. That's what you're supposed to do Rosh Hashanah the whole day. No, daven. I'm not saying speak to other people. You're supposed to speak to God. The whole day Rosh Hashanah, you're supposed to speak. Why is it such a nekuda in Chassidus choice? Yeah, why is Machzor so long in Rosh Hashanah? Why are we so busy with the Machzor the whole time? And it's a lot of the stuff people don't even say. There's a lot of piyutim and things. Why is it the whole speak? Because that's what it means to be human. That Rosh Hashanah is the birth of humanity. The birth of humanity is Yom Teruah. That's the day when we can give, when we can be Takei and we can be Shemiah. We can hear the Hashem's call and we can be a Takei to Hashem. It can be a tshuva to awaken Hashem and it can be a tshuva towards Hashem.
So I was wondering if you could apply this interesting idea about Shemiah being more interpretive. I'm wondering if you or I guess somebody else has applied that to the machloket in Roim Kolos.
Aha.
You have Roim.
Usually this Roim Kolel, the very classical definition of Roim is usually for Gashmi, Shmi is usually physics. So Roim Kolel is they were able to see spirituality.
So according to Rabbi Akiva,
yeah, it's a Chassidim, yeah, everyone says it, yeah.
Yeah, well, I know there's a Sifra of Rabbi in there.
Yeah, that's the same idea, same.
But if is there something just particular, like if we're seeing what should be heard, then we're seeing something objectively that is subjective.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're trying to say that if seeing is a type of objective type of interaction with life, and Shemiah is like a subjective interaction with life, maybe about Torah things became clear and our subjective was clean. Yeah. Like there was no longer schmutz. There was paskazu masam. There was no longer this inner narrative that we were able actually to hear from a place of seeing. Like to hear in a very pure way.
Isn't that the supremacy also at the end?
Yes, similar to that. Yeah, the shtickle from Sasem is like that.
Right, the supremacy says the whole point is that it was Riya Shemiah.
Right.
Riya Shemiah that we were able to internalize it, but it was also Shemiah Riya. That it wasn't. It didn't get like jumbled along the way. We heard it exactly as it came.
Mm-hmm. Right. But it's saying it's a little lakuda, not a lakuda, that there's some type of hearing, because usually what we're hearing, because we're human beings, we have an inner life, we're hearing through our own projections. For better or for worse, that's the mila of seeing, because when you're seeing something, you're actually seeing it, you could see shekacha without the story.
That's like Yatsa Nishmatan.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So the imagery of Pascha Zumasam, that we were cleansed, and Yatsa Nishmasam can mean that we're refined from this inner life, that we're just able to see pure, we're able to hear pure Hashem's voice as if we're seeing it, without any projections. But that's not Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, Hashem actually wants our humanity. Because it's tshuva. So Hashem says, like, no, I want to actually know what's going on in your inner life. Don't tell me you're pure and holy. That's Yom Kippur. Actually tell me what's the tshuva that you need. What's the urim mishnascha? Where are you waking up from?
Is there an Indian, I think a lot of people do this, but in the Sfarad, they talk about how you should have your eyes closed when you listen to the shofar?
It says that. Some places say that, because that's just also for concentration. Also like when you daven Shmoneh Esrei, right? There's an idea, for a lot of reasons for concentration, to close your eyes, but there's also like you're shutting yourself, the Shalach says you're shutting yourself from the physicality, from the world of impressions you're seeing. No, it's not halacha. No, it's not halacha. The Magen Avraham actually writes by davening that it actually depends on your concentration. If you can concentrate with your eyes closed, daven closed. If you concentrate with your eyes open, you should look at the siddur. But afterwards. That's a Peter Rizal. That's Takas Adin. because all the red comes out and the dinim leave. The whole idea of shofar is Amtakas Adin. Just generally, shofar is Amtakas Adin. Because shin is 300 is the numerical value of Shem Elakim. Pei Vav is 86 is also Shem Elakim. And Reish is also another Shem Elakim, how you spell Elakim. It's all Amtakas Adin. It's shav par netzitzis, you're breaking the netzitzis. The whole idea of shofar is you're breaking the koich adin. But what we're really saying, and related to what we're talking about, is you're bringing out the inner voice in the tekiah part, which is beyond all the junk that's blocking it, and you're able to express it. And also, when you're Shemiah, you have to be Shemiah that you're Shemiah the koil of kol gadol. You're Shemiah the Eibishas, the sound of Hashem. The sound of shofar is actually two things. You're blowing it, you're receiving it, you're blowing it. It's different levels of shofar.
Going back to the Alter Rebbe, that's why he says the bracha with Kohen Yotzeh,
Yeah.
because it's like Shimei coming.
That's correct.
Because the blowing.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. That's what's going to be the shit of the Alter Rebbe. He's going to say the Ikar Mitzvah. When you're actually Shemei, when you're actually listening to the shofar, you're actually Takei. Therefore, you can make a bracha al pi shofar.
Yeah, but it's the interpretation.
Correct. No, in other words, the reason why Shemei Kohen, because since the Alter Rebbe says that the Ikar Mitzvah is Shemiah, that's why he could say that you actually Yotz on Tekiah.
And how does all this Alter Rebbe's Hasidic Torah that shofar is the sound of the penis and the shofar?
Yeah.
How does this fit into it?
We're talking about dialogue. It's the same thing. Whatever like a person talks.
Oh, it's a difference between
Yeah,
Dibur and
Dibur and Koil.
much different.
It's a deeper voice. But we're saying that even Koil has interpretation.
What was the original context of Shemiah Kohen? Was that
In Hilchos Brachas, like Birchas Hamazon and Amen. Yeah, it was good as it fell out of the sources.
What's the mashal of Shvindel Trap?
Schwindeltrap is like this. It's a German word, by the way. Schwindeltrap. It's actually it is a Rashi. Correct. Then you get to face to face.
You have to go all the way around.
And you have to get away to the higher level until you get to face together. So you're going away to get higher, away to get face to face. And every year Rosh Hashanah you get back to the face. You get upon them. But it's like this. It's
The year is circle.
Correct. The circle calendar upon them is Rosh Hashanah. By night. That's correct. And in the morning, when the blowing of the shofar is the panel upon him. Absolutely, the Schwindel trap.
Next year we'll do a
Schwindel trap. Huh? Harbitkia. Harbitkia ain't the game shofar call. What's the lashon of that? Right, that's something else. That means if you blow without touching it. What are you saying? What's the halacha? No, what's the halacha? He's talking about a goizel shofar, the yoytza, right? Yeah, because you're not nana for the. Right. No, the altar.
Speaking the whole time that it's that's part of the mitzvah.
The tkiya. The Alter Rebbe writes it, but the Alter Rebbe writes it, that's the lashon of Shemias kol shofar ikar ha-mitzvah she'tekei lo yishama kol shofar lo yatsa. Mukomakim im avar tov birach l'tkoy b'shofar tkiya shofar yatsa. So there's the ikar mitzvah, and not like the Rambam. The Rambam holds that the tkiya is just a hechsher. It's like building a sukkah to get the shofar. The Alter Rebbe holds it's like the Minchas Chinuch and the Shagas Ari. All the other Chayyim hold like this. That there's a mitzvah is taka. The ikar mitzvah is the shmiya, but there's also part of the mitzvah. Chelik of the mitzvah is the tkiya. V'haraya.
Because we overlook that chelik.
Correct? Because it's not the ikar. Because the ikar mitzvah. Okay. This is what sound is all about. This, I'm sure, not sound. This is what hearing is all about. We should be zoichet taka to hear the Kol Hashem. Tkal b'shofar gadol. Ma'ariv. You got it? You got it?